and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 35 of the D.M.C Podcast with your hosts, me, Adam Rigby, and covering for the Man Mountain, Cody Hunter, our very special guest today. He is a lover and a fighter. He's the face, hands, and hips of Les Mills and the National Group Fitness Manager of Les Mills NZ. Devoted family man, motivator of millions, the smile that launched 1,000 lifts and shook 1,000 hips. He's Ben Siolo, or as I lovingly know him as T. My bro, welcome to the podcast today. So grateful to have you here.
Kia ora, brother. I am very grateful to be here too. To cordial with you, to chop it up. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Mate, so recently, and obviously professionally, we've been having some DMC, some real cool chats, and I love the direction they go in. But also in terms of, I tried to explain your job to Cody and the group fitness role. And I said, bro, really, it's just imagine being the manager of one of the world's biggest rock bands. And that's kind of,
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, mate, if you can talk me through, because just for the people, because a lot of the listeners will know you and have dealt with you personally and professionally, will love you as I love you, bro. And so for those that aren't aware of where it all started for you, I mean, we met a long time ago walking into Les Mills. How did that journey begin for you from a group fit perspective to where you are today?
I love that question, bro. And it's really interesting because it really came out of nowhere for me. I initially started coming to the gym as a 19, 20-year-old with my mates Jordan Young and Tim. And it was purely around that whole like rugby, get strong, build those beach body muscles, hit the bench, all of that type of stuff. Funnily enough, like when I signed up to Les Mills, there was also a job at the cafe when it was on level 1.
Yep.
And so when you got a role to work at the cafe, you got a free gym membership. So I was kind of coming along for a few weeks and I saw like the opportunity to jump into the cafe there. And I thought, oh yeah, this is going to work hand in hand. I'm a student at the time. I'm still doing rugby, playing like under 21 Colts for Tawa. And I thought, man, if I can secure this like job at the cafe, I get like a gym membership as well. And I could all kind of see it playing out. And so I applied for the role and I actually got it. So I trained up as a barista, as you probably saw me in the cafe. And, still hitting the weights, still loving, throwing down with the lads upstairs, as you do. And I jumped into group fitness for the first time, like really by accident. I didn't really know what was going on in this space. Like a lot of the guys who come along to the gym who come from a sporting or, rugby background, you probably thought it was more, well, I certainly thought it was more for the ladies, group fitness wasn't typically something that, sports people did. And boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. Like I went in pretty, nervously at the start to, I think it was body attack, and I was doing like Jerome's body attack class. And number one, I saw the brother on stage, like baby oiled to the max, like doing body attack with some hype, cheesy techno music. And I was like, what is this Eurodance music? And I'm up the back kind of like moving as I think I can in that sort of environment. And body attack, as the Les Mills listeners will know, is like that real high aerobics. But to me, if you've never done it before, it was kind of like those 90s aerobics moves. And I was like, what have I got myself into? But then it hooked me because the intensity of the workout, the euphoria of training in that big room, I was like, yo, this is for real. I didn't particularly love body attack. That wasn't my thing. I actually then went to Susan and Susan's body combat class that was on a Wednesday night. And that clicked, when you could throw punches and kicks. And I felt like I was like in there going hard, my visualization of being like a martial artist. At the time people wore wraps and stuff like that. And it got me hooked, like super hooked. And one of the instructors came down and asked and said, oh, hey, T, do you want to learn how to do this? you move pretty well, like why not give instructing a go? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. Why not? And so I continued working at the cafe, and Caroline Jenkins, the manager at the time, came down and then started
OG.
that. The OG came down and had the conversation with me. And I'm still a little bit, there's still a little bit of trepidation. But then when I saw, the impact that you could have on stage, like getting hyped with the crew, with the people in your class, and being introduced to the legend himself, Solomon Baker, and Peter Price. Woo!
Solly, those pecs, those pecs. Oh my days.
And see the charisma of the guys, and like the lifestyle of training hard but like performing on stage, of which I used to study music and theater back in high school, so it kind of was like a blend of sport and performance, and it got me hooked, bro. And that's where I think like that's the journey. That was the genesis of my career in fitness. It was actually coming from more of just being in the gym floor, smashing it out, training for rugby generically, to then going, wow, I didn't realize you could like perform and get up on stage and influence people and like get the music going and be a rock star, as you said at the start, like, and that's kind of where it all kicked off, bro.
Amazing, mate. I'm sure like it's very relevant at the moment, but they talk about cloning. I'm sure like Solomon Baker, every 10 years, he just refreshes. They break a new mold and bring, because the bro hasn't changed. He ain't cracked. His pecs are still off.
I know. It's a testament to, I think, the training that we do, like, I mean, he's still teaching combat.
Yeah.
Right now and killing it still, like it's, I think he's had that Tuesday night class. He had it before I even became an instructor, and that's 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And like that's a real testament to still be throwing roundhouse kicks, jumping, leaping across the stage. The man's like he's past 50 now, still smashing it.
Yeah,
my man. Yeah,
and surrounded by so many wonderful stories, so many legends of group fitness for you, and invariably you've moved into that position yourself. So those that know you and have had the opportunity and pleasure to interact with you get it, right? It's no surprise to anybody why you're viewed internationally as one of the best, one of the greats, right? And that comes from the heart. And your connection, your energy, your care for others, and there's a level to you, and I feel on us, and I compare it, like to walking into an Amy Styles body attack class or a Bevan James Eyles, and you see just everything explodes, and it's that full experience. So while it was no surprise to others, did any of this surprise you to be where you are today, to be on stage, interacting with not just 60 people, but thousands, and then interacting with hundreds of thousands of instructors, being the face of a poster? Has anything been surprising to you?
It is, oh man, it is wild. It's wild. I always knew that I felt it was natural on stage. I felt that I could be myself.
Yeah.
And it gave me confidence in my life that I did not have, so the cool thing about being on stage and being part of group fitness and then getting good at doing it and seeing the results of your hard work and your mahi coming alive by more participants coming into class, deeper connection with the people, mastering your technique and your coaching and education around fitness, like that confidence that you could do something really, really well and be great at it and love doing it. I think then, for me, it wasn't surprising so much that more doors opened, because I wanted to push, I wanted to go hard. I wanted to, become a trainer and a national presenter, and then eventually have opportunity to film, like to jump on a masterclass filming to inspire and influence other instructors. That was always kind of a goal in my mind. Yet, the surprising part is just, I suppose, like the limitations that you put in your own mind about what you're good enough at doing. When you say on posters or on videos, bro, like I'm like 5'7", 0.5, like I'm a shorter dude. Like I'd never think I'd be like in New York doing a photo shoot for, the latest Les Mills Reebok gear, but those doors open. And I think it was a real testament to like just enjoying it for what it was. You know what I mean? Like those doors opened because I loved doing the thing, and then worked on the thing which created that pathway. And those who had the authority or the power to choose who was going to represent the program or step up, I had the body of work behind me to then do it. So it always felt like the right moment to step forward and go, okay, I'll put my hand up, let's go, let's make it happen.
And we chatted about it before, manifesting through action.
That's like, right.
Living in that space and living and breathing it and being ultra passionate and being genuine about your connection to it, it will lead you eventually into that space.
And being grounded, I think too, is like, understanding the commercial side, the people side, helps you to have a more holistic look at what you're doing, rather than just swinging in the dark. You're trying to find out what to do. Don't worry about what you can't control. I suppose there's a lot of topics around this, but it's control what you can. The class in front of you, unlock and unleash. You get another opportunity to move to a bigger time slot, take that opportunity, run with it, get the numbers up, get the people influenced, like show that you can bring amazing value to people's lives in front of you, which then brings value to the gym and makes it, on the commercial side more successful. So then the doors start opening a little further. I think that's probably where I could see the forest from the trees a little bit with that.
And I always go back to that first little moment, where you make a decision, that moment of passion or inspiration that makes you shift and say, yep, I can do this. Right? It's just that little light that inspires you to make that move and go back to that little moment, that connection, that interaction, that class that you talk about, and seeing you talk about it and light up. It just shows how you can carry that with you, and the importance of creating, as us as fitness professionals, creating those moments, those experiences, and the genuine connections that we can form through shared passion, I think is second to none. You talk about the whole process and the gym being like a bubble, but the more you see of it and the more you interact with it, the more you see how connected it is to the actual purpose of what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve. So the difficulty, absolutely, I guess the challenge for that, bro, is because times now, this is unheard of. Talking to people now 2 meters apart with a mask on, trying to perform our jobs under incredible levels of stress, and in a lot of cases not even being able to do that. For you as a motivator of the motivators, how do you work through that? What's your process and mindset in terms of trying to offer as much motivation as you can to the people who have to motivate, but also in terms of grounding yourself and looking after yourself too? Because they're two completely separate things, but work in synergy, right?
They have to. And I think the latter of what you're talking about is when you look after yourself, that allows you to do the next part, because you can't pour from an empty vessel. And so what I'd say that like we're all struggling, and by no means have I nailed it, to be honest with you. And I think that's good, like an authenticity about where we're all at, and knowing that like everyone's tank is a little bit empty, but embracing that and going, okay, look, what can we do by putting one foot in front of the other? What's that next step, that little spark of light and energy that we can pass on? To me, it's beyond the grandstanding like hype video, like everyone let's rally, because that's great in the moment and in the time. But what I'm noticing now, particularly as we're trying to struggle through these moments, is it's the little things that motivate. Just get up in the morning and start moving, get up and go for a walk, share passion about something that you're interested in on social media, or connect with someone with a phone call or a text. Those little moments, those make the real difference, because I think it's authentic to what people are going through, and it can feel almost I don't know, for me, disingenuous if you're trying to promote or feel like it's a brand exercise or, forced motivation, and, that kind of falls a little bit flat. It's more those one-to-one connections. And certainly for me, it's been actually the inclusion of discipline in my own life that's helped fuel the motivation. Because in my mind, I think motivation is an emotion. It's a feeling at a point in time. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel motivated. I'm motivated at this point in time. But inevitably, that motivation is going to dim or dip. And what keeps you going once it does? If we only trained when we were motivated, I don't know if we would build that consistency to get the connections or the results that we're looking for, right? So
yeah, true.
It's that discipline around it too. It's just like, get up, move your body, look after yourself, eat some good food, drink some water with your coffee in the morning, and then head into the day with heart open, authentic. Even if you're not feeling great, that's okay. Own it. And then move through. Yeah.
Did you see
I hope that makes sense, man. It's kind of like
no, bro. I mean, that's exactly the space that we're all in. And appreciating that there is a level of stress that there's an undertone and a really low vibration that everybody is carrying. And I think I only notice it when you get in situations of pressure and you snap. Do you know what I mean? When you normally wouldn't. And that's just an indication that you're carrying a lot of weight. And I think for us, especially with the D.M.C, it's about chatting, being able to chat to people, being able to talk to people about the real stuff, not being able to cover up and say, hey, man, when I'm feeling low, I use my code.
Subscribe. I totally hear you, man.
Like and subscribe. But I see it a lot happening with a lot of people. And we just walk around trying to feel invincible, but there's this uncertainty that follows us all. And, with that does come stress, does come pressure, and we need ways to be able to articulate it. We need people to talk to about it. And what I love, and seeing the journey that you're taking, the social media journey, have you found the transition interesting? Because when you start sharing more of that stuff, the people that reach out to you?
Absolutely. It's so different. There is a tension point. I acknowledge when I was an ambassador or in a position where I had to post.
Yeah.
There's a element where you're very conscious. Am I doing the brand service? Am I posting, a cool image? Is it going to get the likes or the attention that I was looking for? Is it going to net me more opportunity for those who select, in the brand Reebok or Les Mills or whatever it is? It doesn't have to be those brands. Whereas now, for me, I feel like because I don't have that responsibility, which is, good for those that do have it, that they have to maintain that relationship. But for me, the most engaging content that I put out there is the real stuff, with the family, or if I'm, chatting about some certain situations that I'm facing, being really vulnerable in terms of my own mood or challenges, good and bad. I think that's been the most pivotal shift in social media for me. And I think if someone in my position can be real, and vulnerable, and show, not just vulnerable to get the attention or sympathy, empathy from people, because I think that's also too a little disingenuous, but put out with no expectation of taking anything back.
Yeah.
But what you're putting out is like, I'm here, I'm with you, I feel too.
Yeah.
I know how hard this is. And if those of you are out there, you feel like you're isolated in little bubbles and you're struggling, just know I'm here with you and we're together in this. And I think that's the shift that I've taken with that, to share the joy, share the pain, share the frustrations, because I know a lot of people out there may not have the confidence or the ability to communicate that or feel like they're connecting with someone who has that.
Yeah, it's kind of, you've got to feel what you say and say what you feel, be in a position where you're comfortable and confident. And it does take, you've got to break ground. You've got to take the first step in doing that. And it might be small bites. It might be part of a conversation or a chat that you have. And that gives you the confidence and that roll-on effect to do it more naturally, or for it to come more naturally, because it's tough, man. We talk about it all the time. We're bombarded with all of these perfect images, perfect lives on Instagram, on social media, and here we are. The expectation is so high. Tall poppy syndrome, all of those types of things that we talk about, that we see. What are we aspiring to actually be? What are we trying to achieve in life? There's no KPIs for us as a human, really, and no one's measuring or managing it. So we need to really, and what you're doing, I think, a great job is removing that fear and enabling people, or empowering people just to speak. And I think that's super important, because we're all leaders, and we've discussed this before. Leaders create leaders, and ideally that's what we want to do. So how, as a fitness professional moving into, obviously you've got a beautiful young family, how do you, I think coaching is the wrong word to use, but your children, they have so many innocent, interesting, inappropriate questions that are just to the point. Kids do not muck around when it comes to asking stuff, and sometimes it can be awkward. And I know, bro, you're not the kind that goes, just because. So when your children are asking you these questions about what's happening now, about why is everybody wearing masks, what's happening at the gym, why are you home so much, versus why you're not home at all, those types of things, how has that interaction changed for you?
It's continued the transparency and honesty that Anis and I, my wife Annika and I, that we've fostered in our kids. We don't hold back on the truth about things, and also we're open to discuss different things. Obviously age appropriate, but if we've got friends who are LGBTQ plus, so they're totally comfortable with everyone's kind of different journey and accepting of that journey, which is just something that's been natural for the environment that we've raised our kids in. Particularly being in the gym industry, we have a lot of friends across the spectrum of sexuality, gender, all of that type of stuff. So the last thing we wanted to do is put too much filter on what's happening around the world with regard to COVID as well, is to be honest about what's happening. But what we don't do is create the fear. That's really important to us. It's not mask up because there's this dangerous virus out there that's killing people off. It's more like mask up because we're being respectful for others and ensuring that we maintain our distance, because people are getting sick and you may get sick. It's those conversations. Matilda's, she's only 4, so her understanding of what that is in terms of pandemic is different to BB who's 7, but it's also allowing them to ask those questions so they don't boil away inside and create that anxiety in our children. And I think there's a really good piece of discussion and perhaps some study around it, where if your parents are stressed, or if you are showing that you're frustrated or scared of something, then it will naturally pass on to the kids. So what we've tried to maintain with Anis and I is open discussion, but never spiraling into fear or into anxiety with the kids there. You know what I mean? Of course, there's a time and a place to be serious and have the gravity of the situation, but I think there's no need for us to, in our sphere of control, lose that sense of protection, or to become too anxious or fearful in front of the kids. You know what I mean? Which may not seem like it's being fully authentic, but I think there is an element where you, as a parent, you have the responsibility of caring for your family and creating that safety net around your family. And that's certainly what I try and do, is make sure that we have a safe environment at home. And not just safety, health and safety with COVID, but safe, from judgment or from external factors interfering with the stability of mental health or emotional well-being at home.
We all know the benefit of coming home to a safe place, i.e. home, when you can just have one of those days and walk through the door and suddenly, home's like home, and it relaxes you. There's that instant calm. I love, like, for us, it's always been about, teach our children right from wrong, give them the ability to make decisions and take ownership, and always give them the confidence to ask questions. Because Cody and I have dive deep on this, with the classrooms, when even with the answer, mate, and you're still, I'm about 99% sure I know this, but you still won't raise your hand for the fear of getting shot down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about, empowerment. And empowerment should start at the home, first and foremost. But what I love about, we're talking about the next generations, although there's so much uncertainty, when you can talk to children about what do you want to do in the future, the world is literally their oyster to a certain extent. When it was the expectation, maybe for us growing up, or definitely our parents and their parents before, it was set, you will do this is your role. And we've seen a massive shift, and rightfully so. We talk about equality, equity, both male and female, working harmoniously, doing the same things, getting challenged. And that's the great thing about a successful relationship too, right? Challenging each other, inspiring each other, motivating each other. So how do you manage that? Because have you had that discussion with your children? I know it's funny because you say they are incredibly young, but for my daughter, she wanted to be involved in dental practice since she was, I don't know, she started talking about it when she was 4, and now she's 19 and working in a dental practice. So to see that evolution, and bro, it was the journey was mountainous. many highs and many lows, but this is life. But here we are. And I had a wonderful conversation with her as an adult, as you will grow, to have these wonderful, deep conversations with your children as they learn and grow. And in some days they become the parent, they become the educator as they learn more about modern life and interaction. Is there any sort of wonderful stories that your kids have shared with you in terms about future aspirations, or is it just way too early to just live in life?
It's a really good question. They're kind of at this point in time living life, but what's being expressed and the interests that they have are quite different. Like Beatrix, who's 7, she absolutely loves art and creativity. So her drawings and paintings, man, they're just next level. I'm looking at her like going, how do you even come up with this stuff? Like we haven't taught her any drawing or anything. She just has this affinity for painting and being in the creative side of stuff. Now, for me, it's like in the broader picture of this, I still feel like, with the equality, it's foster the interest that they have. And if they're interested in going down particular pathways, then support them on the journey to do that. Mixed with, I do have some traditional leanings in terms of, you've got to put in the hard graft, you've got to put in that mahi, create some discipline around work and your approach to work, like have a good, strong work ethic, and not to bail on things just because you don't like it. For example, I want to ensure Beatrix gets her reading done. And so I'll sit with her. She'll be like, oh, Dad, I don't want to read the books. I'm like, babe, come on. Like reading is a very important skill. At this point in time, they're not going to school to do any learning. And it's that type of stuff. It's the mixture of like, okay, there's some skills that you need to learn, babe. You just need to get down. Maths, we need to make sure that you're keeping up with your math and, learning how to do those skills and not shying away just because you think it's boring or you want to watch YouTube or go off like down the street or whatever. And play at the park. There's that kind of guiding and shaping, not just full blown, you choose your destiny from 7 years old, yay, but also like a, like, okay, so let's make sure the skill set's there as well. And, if you don't like it, when you get better at it, you'll learn to appreciate it at least, and maybe even enjoy it when it comes along. Now, whether that's a good strategy at this point in time, I don't know. They're still super young. I mean, like Matilda's 4, but she has her own leanings toward playing with certain things, and like, she's not an artist like her sister is, but she's very, very good at interaction. She's funny. She's got a real quick wit, and when I say funny, I mean she's hilarious. Like she's just got this natural humor that we haven't
Second
taught it
kids,
to be
bro.
funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
The
feel you
second
there.
kids, right? Yeah.
No, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of the mixture of that. In time, I'd love to have that discussion about what their interests are. You know, I don't want to push her down into STEM fields if that's not what she wants to go. You know, like just because I want to fly the flag of like, you know, get down into technology routes. You know, if she is interested in that, absolutely, I'll support her 100%. But I do agree with the, you know, supporting her interests, supporting their interests and what they want to do, rather than doing it for you know, for any premeditated thought on what's going to make them successful later on in life. You know what I mean? Like, you must become a lawyer. Okay, maybe you're not interested in the law. You must become a dentist or a doctor. You know, perhaps that's not what they're interested in. But if they are, we're going hard. You know, I'll back you 100%.
Yeah, work ethic is incredibly important and something we need to teach more, and potentially in school some people have it, some people don't. But again, going back to that word discipline, trying to teach our children to have the discipline to get up to do the stuff that is uncomfortable, that we don't like. And we've all been there. We've all walked a mile in those shoes, hey?
And for parents, man, I feel like we lean heavily into extrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
It's always, here's the reward. Do this work, please, babe, clean your room and you'll get a treat. You know, it's like, that's the lever to pull as a parent in the early days, is because they haven't yet fostered that sense of the intrinsic drive. You know, I do this because I know it's right for me.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, you know, drawing for Beep, she just does that on her own. But yeah, I feel like at the early phases, you're definitely trading off. Okay, so if you go and clean up your room now, or if you go and do your maths homework now, we're going to go for a walk and we'll get like a fluffy or something like that. And it's like, whoa, are we conditioning our kids to be like, you know, extrinsically or externally motivated? You know, woo, it's a tough one, man.
Next time they get asked to do something, they'll be in, for what? For what?
It's right, in negotiations. Exactly. I'm like, wow, okay.
I gotta plug in my laptop, bro. I've done this many times. Stand by.
Woohoo. Look, I think.
Yeah.
I'll let you come back, bro. I think one thing that I wanted to kind of circle back to, which is inclusive of the kids as well, is like, you know, all the opportunities that one is given, there's one train of thought where it's like, I worked, you know, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I worked for those opportunities and I got a chance to like get on stage and, you know, in the Les Mills world, become a presenter, trainer, whatever. But it would be remiss if you forget the element of those who supported you on the journey to get there, who actually were in the position to open the doors. And so, you know, on the parenting side, it's like making sure that you give your children, or, you know, whoever you're in charge of, the opportunity to step through that doorway and then fly or fail. And
yeah,
you know, honestly, failure is amazing in terms of lessons, you know, because we talk about discipline, but that all comes from when you fail and you pick yourself up again and fail again and you pick yourself up. Because if you don't learn how to like deal with those shitty emotions of failure and like embarrassment and pick yourself up and keep going, that will always hold you back in terms of stepping forward to put your hand up for any future opportunities. And if I align it to what I was talking about in terms of mentors opening the doors, going back to a work side of things, you know, people like Mid Thomas, for me, you know, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to step up to a workshop. You know, it started with Caroline Jenkins, saw some talent, said, you know, Mid, here's a video of T, have a look. Is he ready? Mid goes, yep, cool, get him on stage. You know, for the first workshop, I shadowed 3 tracks at the end of the release. That was my first workshop. But when I shadowed, I made sure I brought that energy 5,000%.
Yeah.
So then the next time I got up, I got to teach a track. And, you know, Carla was in the back of the room and she was like, wow, this young guy reminds me of Mark Newton, you know, because I had, you know, like a certain energy that she could relate to or could see that there was some talent there. And so then she, like, you know, told Mid, let's lift the opportunities. So I think, yes, there's the one hand where you're like wanting to be disciplined, you work hard and you focus on your classes, but also there's an element of building relationships and mentors that believe in you. If someone believes in you, like if I believe in my kids, I believe that they can do something. I believe in my team, national team presenters, trainers, assessors. Like I've seen, firsthand the effects of belief in someone. Take, Vili Fafita, for example. So him and Karan started off at Newland. They'd just done pump module with Maddie T. Maddie T moved over to Australia for a new opportunity. I came in as a new group fitness manager. And, started off at the West Side, brand new instructors. 10 years later, after that, support and development and watching them grow and almost going jump off the platform and fly, now they're at like the top of the game, filming most releases, leading the way for Les Mills International, where I once did. So I think it's that real amazing integration of the work ethic, the talent, the passion, but also the people that have a responsibility to bring through and encourage and believe in the people around us. Without them, without those people to open doors, it would be a really, a glass ceiling approach, which I don't think is good, which can happen in a system where one may be threatened by talent coming through.
Oh, of course. And I've been encouraging, one of my focuses this week, and I put it on our diary. We do a diary for just some thoughts and observations, but I've been really focusing on zooming out, because there's so many things around the peripheral in life, and you get tunnel focus. You tend to just brush past the things that matter most. And I've always said that for my children in with relationships that they build and social circles as well. Sometimes the people around them or closest to them are actually in the way and not the best for them. But there are people on the peripheral that have always been a fan, people that always stand behind them, that always want the best. Those are the people that you're missing. And those are the people that you need to connect with, because they'll stay with you. And we all have people like that in our lives that we look back and think, yeah, that person was 100% on my side. So it's just taking those moments and every opportunity for gratitude, right? It's a relevant word, because all of these things that we're starting to feel grateful for, the simplest things in life that we're all cherishing, the conversations, the just being able to hold hands, being able to sit down next to your loved ones at night and just relax, take a sigh, having a wonderful warm home, all of those types of things that we can take for granted. And these are the little positive things that I find myself dancing between. And especially this week, just it reinvigorates you. And of course, acknowledging that, just even Friday morning, I was just on the laptop, just sending messages to say, hey, I hope you're doing well. Just want to say thanks so much for your help. You've been awesome this week. Or, hey, just wanted to check in, say hi. Just acknowledging some of the people in the simplest of ways can make such a difference.
That's so true. And how often do we forget to do that? I don't know if that's a human thing or if it's a New Zealand culture thing, potentially. We think it in our minds, right? Go, man, they've been working really hard. They're awesome. But we don't articulate it. We don't say it enough. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad that you've said that you do that, man, because that's something that I really want to focus on for myself. It's not sending a message just out of the blue, for just random stuff, but actually acknowledging and sending, when that thought comes into your mind, it's like, wow, they've been doing such a great job. Articulate it, say it, put it out to the world, because otherwise it's just going to die inside your head. And like, you just have those thoughts and be like, yeah, cool, almost feel virtuous because you had that thought, but have done nothing about it. It's good that you're putting it out to the world, man. I forget to do that all the time.
You've got it, bro.
I
say every day I tell my family, my beautiful daughters and my wife, that I love them morning and night. And if I can, I hug them. If I can, I hold them. And I'm a hugger, right? I am a hugger. Yeah. I'll go in. Not quite the long, awkward hugs of Mid Thomas that just, she will not let go. She knows the breaking point of every man and woman. Power to her. But just to be able to connect in that way. And, for me, it's coping with those levels of intimacy, right? And having a way to express my affection through positive interaction, whether it's a smile, whether it's a hug. I mean, I don't just go up to people and hug them in the street, bro. I mean, you know, you've got to open those gates. You've got to have permission to do that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not going on going, hi, how are you? Oh, bus driver, sick. Thanks for the ride, bro. I'm in. But just the smaller things. And, you know, I love the moment where even just little text messages just to say I love you, or, you know, my both daughters are involved in relationships with other guys, with young men now who are currently making the grade, thankfully. My message to them was obviously that they will never find a man that will love them more than I do. But if he comes close to even trying to do that, then I'll be happy, because their happiness is what brings me joy, right? That's all you ever want as a father and as a husband, but let's spread that wider, as a friend, right? As a mentor, as a leader. All we should ever want is the best for people. And you know, when someone says something about their own success, which is pretty rare, and I think let's talk about our successes a little bit more. But when you go, you just think as if to say, I'm happy for you. Be genuinely happy. I love seeing people brave enough to share something they're really proud of and being successful at. I'm like, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love seeing people successful, and also the joy that it brings them. So we should really lift people up if they're brave enough to share little moments of success with each of us. We should be opening up and embracing it, and making them feel comfortable in vocalizing and sharing that success and being motivation to others, right? You know, the old my success is your success, but it's true. We talk about the whole group effect.
It's so true, actually, like when you say that, because there's an innate part of us where if someone does something super amazing and articulates it, there's a part where it's like, oh, you feel suddenly it becomes about you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the weakest side of ourselves, right? Like that are going, oh, you know, so stoked that you got that opportunity. And it's like, but what about me?
I'm happy for you, but it should be mine.
Yeah, but why can't we be stoked that that person's getting that opportunity? Because that actually has no bearing on me. It's my own lens of judgment and comparison that actually makes me feel some way lesser than that person's opportunity or their success, right? I think, why that's a good moment for someone. In fact, you know, like if you're thinking of that personal growth yourself, it's like, notice it. How many times have you been super stoked for someone getting that selection or that prize or whatever, without it having any detrimental emotional effect on you? Because that's your mind telling you something, that there's some either unresolved issues there, or maybe that you feel guilty because you aren't putting in the work that you think you should be putting in. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a really interesting process. Number one, normalize success. We should be proud of the things we do, of course. And, you know, to that point, it's like, it's not blowing your own trumpet. It's just simply being proud of the effort and the mahi that you're putting in, right? But also in the same vein, it's like, actually, I should be stoked for others too. And if I do have those feelings of like inadequacy or I'm missing out, where is that really coming from?
Yeah.
You know, and if I can fix that, then maybe that's going to have a flow on, a cascade effect on the rest of my life and gratitude in other areas.
I think if we're in positions where we get involved in one of those conversations or someone mentions something, you know, it's great to say, man, yeah, they've worked incredibly hard. Shit, they deserve it. How awesome to see them flying, or how awesome to see them doing this. I'm so happy for them. And the other person may, in that instance, it might trigger something that recognizes that it's like, oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, that's a side of me that I didn't see. So being able to check people in those instances and remind people, because as for you, bro, the invisible stuff, the mahi that people don't see, right? We talk about it. What they see is the end result. What they don't see is the reps, What they don't see is the commitment. What they don't see is the focus. What they don't see is the scrolls of paper. And even if it comes naturally, there's still work, there's still doubt, there's still fear. And I think one wonderful thing, recently we did an online course, and seeing these people that are wonderful at what they do, how they're articulate, how they're passionate, and everybody in that moment of learning was scared, right? There was a fear that I didn't expect, that I thought I carried, but it was a shared fear because no one really knew what was happening. And we talked about the imposter syndrome. So hearing people, because of that experiencing that, do you think the fitness industry is responsible for that, or is it society? Is it a reflection of what society is pushing towards us?
Wow, what an interesting question, because I think it's there's a lot of nuance to it as well, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
And I mean, within the fitness industry, it's so wrapped up in, my perspective of it is that it's wrapped up in this whole human behavior of visual aesthetic. The fitness industry is a lot of it gets skewed because of our human and innate decision-making process. Like if we see someone who's super fit or looks aesthetically pleasing, we're like, yes, attribute more success and more I suppose confidence in that person. And so then that drives people to replicate that, to become more reputable in the fitness industry, right? Like, so if I'm like, fit, stacked, rippling abs, then I'm more likely to have someone, to a client base that's going to follow what I do and make more money and be successful from that. Or it could even be, the flip to that is like I put out on social media just screeds of research, education, to kind of almost come from that angle. So it's like I've done PhDs in, biochemical science, or physiology or anatomy, and made that kind of my angle in the fitness industry, and kind of flex down that end, which makes anyone else who may have a 6-month PT course like, who am I to speak up? Who am I to even start my own business when there's a bunch of like amazing athletes or super researched academics in this field. And I think that drives behavior in terms of what people want to put out there. Because I know for a fact there's a lot of people that will put out an aesthetic on social media about their fitness brand. But actually when you meet them in person, you get to know who they are. They're very grounded, very caring, very understanding. But what you see on social media is the flex. Yeah. Like, does that kind of, do you see that happening,
Yeah,
bro? Like,
yeah, bro. And I think because you explained it beautifully in another conversation, it's if we're confusing product with purpose, because the product itself has a purpose, that's to attract as many people as we can into the fitness industry, to get healthy, to move. And with the purpose, once they come into that environment, that we all share the responsibility to foster, to create, to assist people when they walk in the building, to experience what we've all experienced, those moments where you walk into a class and go, oh, wait, what the F is this? I love it. Yeah. I love it. But connecting to the purpose, not getting confused with the product. The product does have a purpose, but it's not our purpose, right? That's the machine. That's definitely the machine. And I see both ends of the scale, and it's interesting to see how people balance that. Sometimes they become too focused on the picture being the product, and they lose sight of those beautiful things and those moments that connect them to the purpose. Yeah. And we all do it.
And it's hard.
Oh, bro, it's
so hard to find that balance. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can see why it would happen, and I can, that's why there's no blame or judgment. I think it's whatever you can do to make it work for you. And and there's an element where like the market will decide, or the exposure to whatever it is that we're trying to do will determine the outcome of success. So if you are putting out there and like flexing on the gram, but then you have a really solid purpose behind you, and people who interact with you change lives and improve, then you're going to be successful. There'll be longevity to what you're doing, right? But if you don't, and you just flex and don't have the substance, then it just will very quickly be weeded out in the market.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. There's an element where, I think, the longevity comes with the purpose and your value add, and the ability to understand your clients or the relationship you have with the people that you interact with.
Yeah, innovate, evolve, and inspire. Mate, away from the gym, obviously, your beautiful wife, your far better half, you like me, have won the lottery.
Yeah.
Won the lottery when it comes to securing the woman of our dreams, our life partner, our ride or die, right? Our ride
Yes.
or die.
100%.
And for me, my soulmate, my reason, my everything, right? And as your relationship has evolved, and again, in these challenging times, are there things that you've learned from your relationship that you can probably pass on to some of the listeners, some of the things that have helped you evolve as a couple? Because I talked about it last week, I think, in reference to when your I becomes we, when your me becomes us, and you're firmly living that as well. So you are interacting in the space where everything you do has flow and effect. But again, fortunate to have an absolute rock star and a pillar who gets you like no one else, who sees you at your absolute worst, but still loves you regardless.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, as your relationship evolved, what are some of the things that you've noticed have evolved with it?
Yeah, what I've noticed is a real sense of self-accountability and how it plays into our relationship. And so the danger that I was in is that I would have this lens of, our relationship being something that, just happened naturally. We just trying to vibe with each other and not really look at what I'm contributing and how I am with myself when it comes to the relationship with Annika. And so the biggest lesson that I learned was, like, if I'm not good and I can't bring my best, most open, trusted self to that relationship, then we're not going to go far, because I'm never going to really get to the point where our communication is open and honest. We'll tend to blame certain situations. I get frustrated very quickly with different things, whether it be with dealing with the girls or our finances, or even our like physical relationship together. It'd be like, why don't you do this? Why don't you? All of the questions that I would have in my mind, why aren't you more loving? Why is it when I get home, the focus is on other things and the kids, and, you always bring up how I'm not performing around the house, and, need to clean up more, and need to be mindful of this, all of this stuff, you know what I mean? And I would always look at it from, previously from the angle of like, well, our relationship is conditional on me, doing all of these tasks. And in my mind, I love you for who you are. I don't care about the goddamn dishes. Leave the dishes. The house isn't conditional.
We're called a man.
My love is unconditional, baby. Like, doesn't, like, the house could be trash and I still love you. Whereas, like, that was a flip for me. I was like, but to her, to Annika, me not caring about that means I don't care enough to pull my weight, to do the things that are necessary to keep the home together. And I realized I had nothing to do with her. It was me.
Yeah.
I had to be self-accountable to how I'm showing up. How am I showing up in my relationship, as a dad, as a partner, as someone who is a team member for the house? Am I showing up like bringing my A game, or am I just waiting for like Captain Arnie's to do everything, and I'm just kind of pissing around at the back, like being useless dad? Like the typical trope that you see, like Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin on Family Guy. Like, there's a trope of like that kind of hapless, helpless dad that's bumbling around, And to some extent, I'm like, what am I doing here? Am I truly being my best self in this relationship, or am I expecting that people, my wife included, bring their game to me so I can be like happy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think, if that resonates, hopefully it's like taking some, accountability, looking in the mirror and going, how am I actually showing up here? Is it my ego getting in the way, thinking that I'm like the provider, thinking that I'm, the awesome dude making moves and, getting after a hashtag rise and grind, when I'm completely ignoring all of the stuff that actually makes our house a home.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So that was it for me. It's like, bring yourself to that. And even the little things, bro, that you said, how often do I say, babe, I love you? Or babe, you look absolutely beautiful. I might think that in my mind as I see Arnie's getting ready or doing a thing, or, you sometimes just sit back and watch your partner do stuff. I love you so much, but you don't say that and articulate it. So, then if she never knows, then it just looks like I'm being like a callous, cold,
all you hear
negative
is Barry
energy.
All you hear is Barry White starting to play in your mind, where you're like, yeah.
Especially if I bring problems from work home and I unload, like, oh man, babe, it was a tough day, blah, blah, blah. So every time I'm like unloading all the stuff for her to carry for me, and I'm like, dude, no, like, articulate more, share your feelings more, have the conversation, listen. Bro, I'm no good at listening. I talk too much. That's something I need to do more. Actually listen, zip the lip and be present.
Yeah, that's it, being 100% present in those conversations, because, I joke about it all the time. My lovely wife likes to have those conversations about 10:30 at night once my head hits the pillow, and I laugh. But if that's the space, if that's the time that we can really connect and she can grab my attention, my job is to make sure that there are other times during the day that she can have that attention. And as you were saying, the grind is everything, right? The marriage and family and being a husband and being a father and being a mother and being a family unit is hard. That's the grind. Life is the grind. We're working on these other things to make ourselves more, physically fit, mentally fit, trying to find ways to relieve stress, trying to earn enough money to live, just to survive. That's the grind. The whole thing, it's one massive kaleidoscope of stuff. And I think the one thing that I always fall back on, and Cody and I have talked about it, and we're going to get a wonderful balance as we invite a female onto the panel as well, but talk about the love language, understand the triggers and the things that your partner, the love of your life, that they need from you or they respond to, because you could be buying lavish gifts and it's just not connecting. Whereas me, Justine is acts of service. The more I can do for her, small things. But it's funny, as you get teenagers, you're like, why don't you make your bed? Because it just gets done. So I'm the cook. I am the cook of the family. It is my great pleasure and my gift to be able to share with my family. I love doing stuff for them. And, I like to clean up too, spotless. That's just the Virgo nature in me. I love to do that as well. But there's opportunities where I get to do things that Justin does. Man, I will not touch the vacuum cleaner, though. That is her domain. I will not touch it, because I've been there before. I've tried, and I just didn't quite measure up when it comes to performance with the vacuum cleaner. So I gave it a shot, man. I'll step away from it so I can do everything else, but just vacuum is just not me. I've just managed to also secure a vacuum that works underwater for Justine, so she's just loving life at the moment because she can vacuum the land and the sea. I said, babes, why don't you go down the beach? Take your vacuum down the beach and see how many granules of sand you can suck up. It'd be amazing. But the more stuff that I can do for her, that's what makes her feel good and feel happy, as well as telling her that I love her every day. as well as holding her. Men are easy, right? We just touch. Most of men are just touch me. just hold me, and words tell me that I'm great. Tell me that I'm great. But
Bro,
I'm definitely touch.
I actually have the same issue. I need to run and get this charger. Otherwise, this is gonna... Yeah, do it. Give me 1 second.
We can pause there. Charger tings. That is what happens. The reality of socializing on the media when all you want to do is chat and you forget those little peripherals, like we were discussing about the little things in the relationships, the little hugs, the little holds, the little times to say, I love you. The small things, even picking a flower from someone else's garden discreetly and presenting that to your loved ones, even your kids, is something wonderful. And doggies. Woo. I can hear heavy breathing. Yo!
Hikoi, the run, my lord. Had to absolutely gas it.
That was the moment, mate. All of that training, all of that morning mahi was for this moment.
Absolutely.
I wish I could have put a theme song to that run. It's like,
yeah, up 3 flights. Let's go.
Oh, wowzers.
Woo.
Yeah, I mean, love languages, and as I say to my kids, words. We've had a chat before with our whānau. Words are funny, because people telling you that you're good at stuff. We always shy away from it. Well, I do anyway. When someone tells you something, you're like, I've become trying to get better at owning it and appreciating it and thanking people in those moments, because I don't want people to feel like if they tell you that you've done something really good and like it kind of, the bravery that it takes for someone to tell you that, we don't want to tarnish those moments. So I'm saying thank you so much. That means the world to me. When people could reach out and connect.
I absolutely agree, man. Like it does seem like a rebuttal almost when someone doesn't acknowledge that you've said, hey man, that's such a great job. It's like, oh no, just trying to be like you. So like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. I'm like, no, it is. It really is a big deal. Good on you for doing that. Yeah. And like you, I think it's a humility thing. You don't want to come across like you're arrogant or cocky. So you kind of downplay it a little bit, but actually just the simple, like, thanks, man. I really appreciate you saying that.
It's a celebration.
I really needed to hear that, Yeah.
I've had an incident recently, and we talked about it a while ago, where someone came up to me in terms of, an experience in a way that they had helped them, which was an interesting experience to me because the whole thing went full circle. And being able to hear that just connected me, and it made everything kind of made sense in that moment, why I went on that journey. And to hear that something that I had done had affected someone profoundly was incredible. And I had no words for once, lost for words in those moments.
What actually happened, man? What was the situation? Are you able to share?
Yeah, of course.
Story?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think I've talked about it before, but through it was a while ago now, doing having been selected to do a DVD, and incredibly grateful to be able to have the opportunity to work with Glenn and Sarah, Pete Annual, the legends, to be able to go up and be on that stage in the original Auckland studio, to do that. And there were elements that I felt really proud of, and I never celebrated the moment, but I was incredibly hard on myself afterwards for the things that potentially I felt I should have done or could have done.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like, the machine evolves and moves so incredibly quickly that you're left a little bit to sort of sit and dwell on those thoughts, and I did that way too much. And so for me, it always became one of these things that I hadn't really sat down and digested. But I was outside a class, and a guy came up to me and he said, "You're Adam Rigby, eh?" And he go, "Yeah." And he said, I just want to tell you something. I need to tell you something. He said, I wasn't going to come today, and then I saw your name and on the timetable, and I thought I'd come into your class. and he said they've come over from Australia, and he said, years ago now, I suffered from severe depression. And one of my friends was involved in the gym, and she gave me a couple of DVDs and said, sit down, watch the DVDs, get moving, get inspired. And one of those DVDs was a DVD that I did, RPM 58. And he said, just watching that, listening to your words, he said, I don't know how to say this, articulate it, but he said it literally saved my life.
Wow.
And I was,
yeah,
for
I
me,
can imagine.
this experience that I had, I was indifferent about, and I carried a lot of, there was a lot of darkness for me involved after the experience. But then to hear that, I was like, holy shit, because you never know those interactions.
Yeah.
The importance, and it's positive and negative, right? You never know. And that's why I'm saying be present in conversations when people are talking to you or trying to tell you something. Be open to it, connect to it, and accept if it's a compliment, and accept if it's passionate or positive feedback that will help you get better at what you do. Accept and own those moments. But for him to come in, and then his partner came the following night and said exactly the same thing. He's like, just, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And I was stunned, and our group fit manager was there too, and she was like, holy shit. And I kind of stopped, and he walked away, and he was just on his phone, and I just walked up and said, look, sorry, I just had a hard reset. But I said, you have no idea how much you saying that and us connecting means to me. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you for coming, and thank you for being brave enough to share that with me. I said, from here on, we are completely connected. And I said, can I give you a hug? And he's like, yep, let's go. Gave him a massive genuine moment of connection, and it was just blew my mind. So it's amazing, and to think of all the people that we've had the opportunity to inspire, that you just never know. Some people will talk to you about it, but it's the people that walk out of there. You may see the unhappiest person in the corner of the room, but you have said something that they carry with them. They've had the shittest day and they walk out feeling good. A moment they will carry, and sometimes they carry it for a long, long time. As much as, we read Cody and I are big fans of the 4 agreements. Be immaculate with your word, the effect it has to someone else, but also how they view you, the perception of you as you speak. So I'm always super conscious of that. But in that moment, I was like, oh, wait, what?
I know, that's big. That's big, man. That's heavy. Whew.
Yeah, something I never expected to hear,
Particularly as you touched on, Adam, and I think this is an important point, because that filming, I know just from previous conversations with you, perhaps wasn't the experience that you thought or wanted it to be. But having said that whatever it was had that dramatic effect on that particular viewer or that person, the man that you were talking to, and probably thousands of others as well, which kind of, in my mind, when I think about that, it's like so many times we can do something and maybe not feel like it was as fulfilling as we wanted it to be, or didn't have the impact on us that we thought it might have. But once you zoom out a little bit and go, actually, all these touch points, this thing that I did, this RPM 58 release that I filmed, in many people's memories, will be the best release that they've ever done.
Yeah,
and you were like the most inspirational instructor that they've ever seen, and unique in that respect. How has been the, I know I'm kind of asking you the question.
Go, bro. This is what it's all about.
How did you reconcile? I mean, this probably, that story that you shared is probably a big part of it. How did you reconcile your feelings of RPM 58 when you said there was a bit of darkness there, or there was an experience that didn't hit? Yeah.
It's like looking to the top of the mountain and not really appreciating the journey, or getting to the top of the mountain and not appreciating the view. And for me, it was just sitting back and realizing the occasion itself, and being there and actually getting to that point. And and in reference to that, not I think the issue was maybe looking too far beyond that point and not experiencing the moment, because there was energy, and man, I was jacked up on so much caffeine. I couldn't tell you what happened that day, but it's on video. But recognizing the people and the Blighty that was up there, Lee Smith was there, Pete Manuel, who was amazing, Glenn and Sarah, gracious and kind, and inviting me into their house and their home, which was like going to Buckingham Palace, Matt, back in the day. And it was all of those things. When you talk about imposter syndrome, you're sitting there and going, holy shit. It was bizarre. It was just really bizarre for me.
Oh, you go, bro.
But just recognizing the people that were there, and had a massive crew from Welly come up and support, which was amazing, which was incredible. There was a moment in there where I talk about a sandpit, and that's become kind of famous or infamous. And hearing that there's a group in Australia called the Sandpitters, who were the group that trained on that DVD, which was hilarious. I heard that at Lee Smith's wedding, actually. I'm like, you're what? People still remember that. But it's funny. I think I focused on 2% of, the entire picture, and I put too much pressure on myself after. I don't know what my expectation was afterwards. But just going back and reversing it and thinking about, man, the steps that I took, from that first moment where I got on stage with Latu in City Fitness, and he goes, "Oh,
City Fitness."
He just takes off his mic and goes, "Here you go."
Yeah. I hear you. The reason I asked too, because I'm in the position where, certainly for the New Zealand side, and I know what it's like on the international side as well, where I see our presenters and trainers, the top of the top in New Zealand, still never really enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I try my very best to try and find some way of helping them be present and go, this is the moment. I know you can't see it, but this is it. Like, this is the time where you should be just present, embracing these opportunities, workshop, or, going up to a global filming event or whatever. I think it's our future expectation of like, oh, but I'm going to do the next one, and I want to be there for the next 5 years, or, I want to film the next 10 releases. We have absolutely no control over it. And in fact, some of those decisions are not based on performance at all. It's based on the schedule of programming, the schedule of product release. All of that plays into it. And yet, time and time again, bro, I see, our wonderful, amazing presenters, have that moment to film and then go, when am I doing the next one? I'm like, this was it. That was the moment, And one of the things that I talk about with the current crew who I'm close to, the likes of Vils and Tash who are filming now, it's like, treat every single one like it's your last one.
Yeah.
Never expect that this is going to be the next one coming or whatever, unless it's, built into a contract or something. But it's almost like that gratitude of being in the moment at the time, and that is it. Like, it's like, yes, I can be present. This is it right now. I'm here, and whatever happens next is all good. That's a real hard moment, for me as the manager of these people, and also being in that position myself.
And it's very different. It is polarizing. And I think for me, when you get in back in the day when it was the small studio, you jump in and it's got this big light board and massive camera that was very, very close. And I remember moments like that thinking, oh shit. But but I go back and the realization for me after that point, when I just had a chance to go back and talk to other instructors and connect with the members, is ground zero is where we make the impact. The lights and the cameras are great, and having the ability to connect to instructors and inspire them to inspire others is amazing. We should always strive to be the absolute best version of ourselves, regardless of what our expectation is of where we should be or where we feel we should be. And man, if you're DVD ready, you never know, peeps. You never know.
Never know. Yeah.
But strive to connect, strive to inspire everybody that you touch, not just in your class, outside of class, and we connect to living the brand and the values, and just be the type of person that others want to be around. And that for me is the gold. And that's what I love, just fronting up to the club and being able to connect and talk to people and inspire instructors and talk to them, and the importance and those values, in terms of we are here to inspire people to move, to improve, stress, to relieve stress, to give them the opportunity to better articulate themselves. Because we know, sometimes performance leads to a little more confidence, and then that may flow over into other things in their lives. What's great for me is seeing younger instructors, as you know, come on and then see their evolution as people.
Yeah.
We've all been
absolutely.
in those, sit in the little grom as we're trying to learn and trying to emulate the rock stars, and then all of a sudden they start to evolve, and it becomes, and you can see it as it affects other stages in their lives. And it's wonderful as they take on the mantle, and we should all cherish it. Like you say, not just the opportunity like that if every moment was our DVD moment, if every second was every minute was our last minute, the change in philosophy, how we would embrace, like that zooming out, how we would embrace those moments. If you knew you had 30 more minutes with a loved one, how different would those 30 minutes would be? So why not every 30 minutes that you get to spend with that, embrace that same philosophy? And mate, that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so powerful. Like that, the gratitude and the presence of being present. When I say presence, I mean being present and valuing that time, and almost like absorbing as much of that time as you can, stretching that time as long as you can stretch it. When you're present with someone or in a moment. And I'm particularly bad at that, bro. Like, my mind thinks of 5,000 different things that I could be doing or could be, solving all the time. I'm never in the present. I don't know if you're like this, bro, but like I'm never in the present. I always think, okay, what's happening next? What's the next cool thing? Okay, I might do this, and then I'll be sitting here and thinking, shit, I've just sat next to my daughter's who's telling me a story about something, and I'm a million miles away. I'm thinking about what's happening for dinner, what I'm planning next for, work, or it's a really hard practice for me, but I think it's beneficial. It's been so beneficial to start that process of being present. And the way that I've found the most powerful root of doing that is gratitude. I couldn't do it just by listening to a meditation or sitting there and going, be present. Like that didn't work for me. It was the gravity of being able to do the thing that I'm doing. Like, I'm so lucky. How grateful can I be that I have my family with me, that I have this time to sit with my daughter and I'm watching her read me a story or tell me a story about something that happened at kindy or school. How wonderful is it to be in this moment where I'm standing on stage in Stockholm looking at 2,000 people in front of me.
Crazy shit.
While I'm dancing. Like it's those moments where it's like, whoa, you want to have that experience, like you said, in every meaningful moment that you can throughout your life, right?
And those are the things we remember, and those can be some of the things that people remember about you. So it comes down to legacy too. And I talk about this, like moments like this that we're sharing now. This is on YouTube, bro. This is on Spotify. This becomes part of the legacy where people get to see how we feel, how we interact, how we chat. Not necessarily like our partners, our beautiful partners, get to celebrate our best achievements. And they obviously get to see the impact that it has on us as people as well. Some of those dark moments, where you just, but I think the overwhelming thing, like a partner, like Arnie's will know you and know when it's just the bro needs quiet time. Justin needs me. And that's what I found too, bro. So, I've gone back into cycling. I've bought another bike, which enables me to get out. And I found that I felt over the last maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, I've been continuously tipping the cup and helping so many people in different situations and being a massive empath, it's hard because you pour out so much of yourself. And what I found is the batteries were getting low, and I felt it. And there was something missing. And for me, it was just that solo time, just to be able to remove myself and do something that I'm passionate about, or something a little bit different, a different version of something I was passionate about. And then suddenly it's like operating an iPhone with it plugged in versus not plugged in. Suddenly I've got the plug, and the battery is just continuously, we're both been through that now, bro, with the charger. Suddenly it's like,
yeah, man,
black screen. Whereas now we're like, happy days, mate. We can talk for 24 hours, bro.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go.
When you say that solo time, wow, like in this lockdown experience, my goodness, it's so necessary. And I didn't realize how necessary until you're with your loved ones for 24/7. Like you, man, getting back on the bike out there with your own solo time. Like, I will go for a run in the mornings, every morning, get up, go for a run. My IT band's a little tight now, so I'm actually pivoting back onto the stationary bike, because you start running 5K every day after never running in 20 years. Your body's like, bro, what are you up to? So yes, I'm resting my IT band now by cycling.
Ooh.
But it's amazing though, right? Like, the process in which, when you're by yourself, when you're working hard, there's no one around you, there's no one to push you on. It's literally your own mind there with your body just going hard. All of the things that come out, that should tell you to stop, or to tell you to ease up, I think that's a really great practice alone. Because once you get the demons out, then you come back home and you're like, whew, I'm at peace. I'm one with the universe. And there's just so much better mood for the family, and then you can give all of yourself. I think, for me, that's certainly it. And I find passion in the grind, and going into that hurt locker. But for you with the cycling, is that tapping back into your passion, bro? That's a thing that you do that's for you, filling that cup.
It's a lot of things, eh? I mean, for me, cycling, and one thing I notice, I love to cycle alone, but also like to cycle with a mate at times. And there are times, even when you're cycling with someone else, like if you're going up a climb, you're just in this whole other world where you're just digging deep. For majority of the ride was off road today, so it was terrain that I wasn't familiar with. So almost relearning how to operate, rehoning skills. Just being outdoors, challenging myself, feeling my heart rate just start to elevate, feeling all that fear and doubt and anxiety about the intensity. And geez, I used to be able to do this, comparison to the old me that used to be able to charge up these. What am I doing? But also, random other thoughts where I had the ability to process some of the stuff that was going on this week, and then the opportunity to sound out to my riding buddy, Sam, which will put me in a better position to actually sound out to Justine and the family, or my workmates, things that I'd been processing. It's good to have a trusted buddy as well. So as much as the solo time was great for me, I mean, I've got a passion for cycling and bikes, and been fortunate enough to be able to do that all over the world. And we were talking about that as well today. But just to be able to get out and experience the freedom, and that's what I love about bikes, right? And for years, I was tied into road bikes, look flash, tight lycra, pro vibes, smart shades.
Woohoo!
And now it's, for the first time last week, I went riding with a t-shirt on. I was like, wow, who is this guy? Who is this guy? But I got back and I'm like, wow, man, that was just amazing. And twilight ride, just going out, having fun, vibing with the mates, having fun, having a laugh, and then getting back and just going, right, dinner time, back on the tools.
You got to feed the soul for a little bit, do something for you. That's so good. For me, what we've been doing, and then with Bus Hollander, Chris Richardson, we have a dad's chat every Friday night. So we'll grab a beer or something and then link up for a dad's chat. And it covers all of the the typical like relationship stuff that we wanted to raise, or some topic of interest that we wanted to talk about. But yeah, when you say that, like getting that solo time, but then that's not solo time, but it's your time.
Yeah.
Like it's giving yourself that outlet with a trusted group where you can feel that you belong to something, where you belong to something that's yours, whereas everything else in the house is ours. Like I don't have my own room, this is our house to be in, but for that connection and that circle of friends, that's mine. That's something that I'm fostering, that helps to fill my cup and the sense of individuality. Because and maybe you've experienced this, like, do you experience that you kind of almost lose a sense of self? You do become you're an I, but you become a we. Yeah. But then you can almost forget that you're an I as well.
Yeah.
And the sense of identity alone should be strong, as well as your identity as a unit.
Oh, of course, mate, because all of the things that make you inherently you are the things that the other person fell in love with as well. So it's important to stay true to those things. And retain that passion and that fire and that intensity, and having things to share with the other person. I mean, Justine and I are very similar in a lot of ways. We love the same things. She's coached me into a couple of things to be able to enjoy some stuff. The funny thing about us, I love going away and challenging myself. She will lie on a beach and shop, and that's just not me. But we find a way to make it work. Even the trip, she travels with my daughter to Hawaii because, bro, I can't sit still. I can't lie on a beach, man. And I tell the story all the time. We went to Australia, and I tried to follow Justine around a mall, and I'll go to Oakley store, maybe there might be a sports store or a nice men's fashion store. There's like 3 shops out of 200. I tried to follow Justine into a store, and I walk into the shop, and bro, seriously, I was just ambling through, taking a look, and I was just walking past the counter, which was about a third of the way through the shop. She had done the lap, scouted every single product in that shop. She was out, mate. She's like, next shop. I'm like, what? How does that even happen? I can't keep up. I said, man, I'll be at the cafe. I'll just sit down. I'll grab a cake and a coffee, and how about we just rally up? And so I just let it go. It go.
Yeah. I get that frustration too when I'm in the shopping mall with Anis, because her and Bibi and Tildy's, they'll take their time going through shops, and I'm kind of like, cool, okay, so we're here to buy whatever it is. Anis looking for a pair of shoes and a dress, and I'll follow in it. Cool, found the shoes? Okay, no, not yet. We're going to a different shop. I got the dress. No, I'm looking at like bathwear, but we're here for shoes and a dress. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna go. Yeah, I just like you, bro. Just gonna go grab a coffee. I'm gonna chill out for a bit. We'll just meet back here, because otherwise I'll get like frustrated and anxious that then that's not fair on her, because this is a cool time for her. It'll piss her off, and then it just ends up being a sad experience for everybody. So I'm like, no. This is your issue, my man. Take yourself and go plant yourself over here. Just get out of the way.
Bro, I think the thing is, we are so different, but we need each other to evolve, I think, in terms of our connection and our way of thinking, because there are some times when my daughters are together and they're older, they're young women now, and they're confident and articulate, and they just do think a different way to me, which is great, because I need to be challenged in that way. Mm-hmm. I need to be involved in those conversations and see how they think. And what I love about my kids now is they will check us in ideals in our way of thinking that has been coached to us. And Cody and I talk about it all the time. We're a byproduct of the stories and messages that have been fed to us.
Yes.
And over time, that has evolved. And it's filtered through our generation. So it gets to a stage where our kids have their own beliefs by the experiences they have and the things they have access to. And so, for grandparents are a great example in terms of some of their beliefs, personal beliefs about how things should be back in the day. Oh, hey, calm yourself, Nana. Stop, time. Time. You can't say that. You can't say that. Time out, Nana. And the kids will do it. They'll say, oh, hang on a second. But I love having not so much, well, it could be a debate, but a conscious debate where you are present, accepting that people do think differently. But that's what makes life so wonderful, eh? And you don't have to understand it, but certainly you have to accept that there are differences, things where we will always disagree on. But that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
amazing.
That's it. I've been consciously aware of trying to, look at different perspectives across the political spectrum. I mean, the US is so pervasive in terms of how much content is coming out, from the right or left or center or whatever it is. But I think what I try and do is look for the good in the spectrum of ideas and thoughts and processes, not putting too much judgment. I mean, of course, extreme right, left, where it's, issues of racism or, homophobia or any of that stuff is just like, that's, dude, no, it's not for me. But I think what I've been exploring my journey is not to become too pigeonholed in terms of my thinking.
Yeah.
To always stay above it and question and look for the merits in people's perspectives, whether it's podcasters like Joe Rogan, super popular, but kind of has a lot of conservative talkers and, liberal viewpoints on his podcast, even for my own beliefs, is to challenge them.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of that because I think it makes you either question whether you've got the right kind of, stance on something, or if you're certain, it's like, cool, I know now that this is what I want to do and this is the values that I stand for and want to put out to the world. But I think if you only listen to your own, echo chamber of ideas, you start looking at others as antagonists. And we're all in this game together, bro.
Relevant, brother. How relevant is that right now? Like right
exactly,
now,
right this second. Exactly.
It's just...
We can't start, man.
It is a conversation that's bigger than all of us. Obviously, it's important to have, and you talk about echo chambers, that we get it fed the information or block out the stuff we don't want to talk about. Everybody wants the same things, bro. I mean, I look at you guys, and we've gone from our first world problems to our level 2 problems in Wellington. Obviously, we get the ability to move, and I never take it for granted. And every time I go and do a workout now, I'm like, my friends, you guys in Auckland, you don't have that, or you haven't had that up until now. There's been no freedom. I spoke with a great mate of mine yesterday, and he's a connector, right? He needs people like you, like all of the people in your charge, like all of the group fit instructors. We're connectors. We need that energy, that collective power, that mission, that purpose. And, to hear that your friends are struggling, it's tough, and we all want to find our way out of it. But yeah, there's some real negative talk, there's name calling, there's all of this type of stuff. It just needs to stop. It just needs to stop.
Yeah.
Always go back to be kind. Just be kind, be immaculate with your word. Think about what you're saying, how it affects everybody around you. And I love sitting down, listening to other people's perspective. Even talking to my bro on the bike today, interesting conversation about the levels in the traffic light system and all of the things that are happening. But it's really interesting to hear him come up with some concepts and ideas that I hadn't thought of. That's what it should be like. People will always think differently.
Yes. Yeah.
And eventually,
that's it. It's like a collective. We need to pause and be patient and collectively understand where everyone's coming from and move forward together. I mean, I'm not trying to critique the decision-making process. I mean, to some extent, if you're, support Labour or not, having the mantle of responsibility for how the country moves ahead must be insane. The pressure.
Bro.
I wouldn't, I can't even imagine what that must be like. But also there's an element where if we are leaders, like you say, we should be encouraging a unity even through diversity of thinking. And that I don't, because I've got friends in the industry that I know are going to be faced with a crisis of value coming forward. An absolute crisis of value, of which some may not want to cross. And it's going to be very hard. It's going to be impossible for them to to do anything further unless they go a particular route, right? So I don't want to look at my own friends as the enemy holding us back. Like, that's an insane thought to have. What we all need to do is to be understanding of each other, and understanding of how we might move forward within this kind of situation. I'll reserve judgment for anybody, man. Like, there's a lot of rhetoric out right now in the media about us versus them, and this is what's happening, and polarizing this and demonizing that. I'm like, you see that playing out overseas, and it just doesn't end well. So I'm hoping that we could, those of us who can continue to spread a little light, spread a little energy and love to everyone around us.
I hope so. And like I say, you guys are affected more than anybody else in the country. And how many days is it? How many days has it been locked down for?
I can't remember the exact day. We're in the 12th week. Yeah. The last time I was in the gym was workshop. And that was the 18th of August? Yeah. So I haven't been, like, August. I think
the gym to the gym, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the last time I was actually inside doing, any kind of workouts within the gym space. Yeah. Which seems like I'm just looking at the calendar now. I'm like, no, 14th. It was the 14th, because I think the 18th is when we were fully locked down.
Right, yeah, brother. That's a lot of days, eh?
That's a lot of days.
Many days. many days.
Many days being at your own home, my man. I'm glad we can get outside. I've been, actually, I think the pressure cooker, though, in some respects, it forces you to evolve your thinking, your perspective, your approach on life. I would not be as resilient now if I hadn't faced the challenges that we've faced over the last few months, or even the last 12 to 18 months. Not to say that, I'm like, yeah, lockdown is the bomb, let's keep it going because it makes me a better person. It's when you're put into situations where the control around a certain part of your life or a lot of your life is taken away. What do you do?
Yeah.
How do you act? How do you move forward? What can you control? How do you make it work within the new confines of whatever space you're in? And when you stop, and what I found out was when I stopped hoping that it would change, when I stopped fighting against something that I had absolutely no control over, and just started embracing the new kind of like reality of where we're at, and just thinking, cool, make it work here. This is our new system. This is what we're doing. It was a much better process, bro. Take full accountability of my own life and my own responsibility of my own happiness and my family's well-being and safety, and it transformed my approach to life.
Yeah, what you carry versus what you control are two very different things, eh? And for me, the 100%. Same with going through recently, with identifying that I needed more of that solo time, a little bit more me time, but to focus. It's not selfish at all, wanting to be the best version of yourself, or doing whatever you can to be the best version of yourself, so that you can give more to others, and be better to be around, right? To be able to react better in situations. But I found that too, even with business, there are so many things happening from business perspective, uncontrollables, and all I can do is, open book, tell people how you're feeling, give people the truth, the honest answer, set an expectation that is based on the truth, not what people want to hear, but what they need to hear.
Yeah, so true.
Delivery times for all of the things, the lead times for a lot of stuff, technology, especially because of the chip shortage, all of those types of things. Customers are hurting, but if you're open about the process, most people are okay. It's actually okay, but you still you think, I feel it's like, can I tell them that? Is that okay to tell them that? Will that actually put them off? Will that get them angry? Well, I'll tell you, not telling them is going to be way worse, right? It's just like
way worse, right?
Yeah, not telling people how you're feeling. So I think, in chatting to you, just inspiring people to be able to articulate, or to be able to speak their mind, to tell their to tell your truth, to speak your truth, to be real, to not be afraid to be vulnerable, to be able to share those moments. And when you see other people sharing those moments, you think, yeah, it's not just me. It's not just the weight that I'm carrying. We're all in the same boat, right? We're all trying to achieve the same things, man. They're just, I mean, it's interesting when we talk about lifestyle. Do you think, I mean, have we become accustomed to too much of a cushy lifestyle in NZ, where we see simple things getting taken away, that we're just being a little bit, is precious the right word?
It's a really good point, because again, that is so pertinent to what's happening right now. Very relevant.
Privileged. Is that the right
word? Yeah, they say that like when you are privileged and what's the quote? Like where you're in a position of privilege and then equality comes, it can feel like oppression.
Yeah.
And it kind of relates to this, but I do think it's more nuanced than that, because I think there's a lot of people out there like saying, New Zealand, you've had it cushy for a long time. You're just not used to the privileges being taken away. This is, blah, blah. But then I empathize with that, absolutely. But then I also think to myself, it's a little step. It's step by step we walk down a different road toward losing a little bit more, and a little bit more freedoms, a little bit more personal choice about certain things. Now, that might sound a little like right-wing conservative, like, my freedoms and all that stuff. But I do think there's a valid argument in critiquing, at least voicing concern. It's like, okay, I understand where we're going, but this pathway, I need to know that, it's not going to lead to further steps of, overreach, so to speak. And that's where I think I stand on that particular issue, is like, I don't think we're just cushy and we're getting privileges taken away from us. I think that we are faced with a very difficult decision to make, and that it is very polarizing for us. If we keep the greater purpose in mind, it helps to put that kind of sense of freedoms getting taken away to ease a little bit, to say, I'm doing my part to ensure New Zealand stays safe. We can do that. I can do that. I can get behind that. But when it comes to the point where it's starting to feel like it's not about that anymore, and it's a little bit more about a system of control in place, then we need to question. Then we need to critique and just say, is this the right path that we're taking, team? I need to know that, like, we value the rights that we all have as humans, and we don't chip away at it little by little until we find ourselves down the track going, hey, remember when we used to have this and now we no longer do? I hope I'm purposely treading down the middle line, because that's truly where I stand on this, bro, because I'm not trying to critique anything, but
there's nothing wrong with it.
I think it's important to, though, balance both sides. I'm always a balance guy, bro. Like, that's just me. I'm a compromise guy. Some people don't like compromise. They're like, you should never compromise for your values. I am knowing relationships. We're always making compromises. And I think that's the healthiest way. It's like, you go one way, you get a little bit of feedback, you navigate a little bit differently. And eventually you find that equilibrium that allows us all to operate, or certainly in a relationship. Imagine you didn't compromise in your relationship, right?
Oof. I'll be sleeping on
it wouldn't be a relationship.
I'm looking at the doghouse going, oh yeah, it looks comfy, eh?
Oh, it looks good to me.
That's good. I in our new reality, our new normal is, sitting down, walking around with masks on. When we used to see people with masks on trains, you'd think, well, what's up with that? But that's our norm, that's our reality. And I almost feel it's, you have a picture which is like a puzzle, and slowly pieces are getting removed. And the fear is that you're going to take, or pieces are getting taken away, and eventually we won't recognize the picture.
That's a good point. And look, if it's legislation, then it's in permanently. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm like, let's just be careful, team, because you might be 100% backing, like, if I take a position like, I love Labour, and like, awesome, we're going to put in these laws, it's going to protect New Zealand, woohoo, and then boom, they're out of power. Someone you don't like is in or a party that you don't support is in there, all of that applies as well. And that's the trade-off, is that if you make it permanent and it stays, eventually, as all parties do, it'll change power. It's just a matter of time, and so that's why we need to be very careful in terms of what we're wanting to make a law forever, so to speak. I mean, there's probably ways that you could change laws in the future, but still, it's like, it's a lot of responsibility to a large, to the governing power of New Zealand. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it or should, but we should always question. We should always go, is this right? Should it be going down this path? And not be swayed by charisma or by the love one might have for like a sports team. I don't think you should support your political party like you do your local sports team or the All Blacks. It should always be, I vote you in because you represent our views on the policies that I agree with, and this is what I'm going to hold you accountable to, and as an act of service, not because I blindly love, I've always voted National my whole life, or I'm a Greens advocate. I just don't think the emotion is helpful when it comes to political parties.
Oh, of course, and one thing I've honestly myself had enough of is the fact that it's been made personal too. So some very vicious attacks on the people that are making the decisions, and that's just doesn't sit well with me. You can have your opinion based on the decisions that are made, and there are a variety of factors that go into making a decision and making it law, but please don't make it personal. There's no need to imagine the waking up to that type of press, the type of things that again said about you as a person. We always know that
absolutely,
interactions, not everybody's going to get it, not everybody's going to understand it, but there are some really horrible things. Don't be that person. Hey,
no, elevate yourself, and if you really want to make a difference, show up to the voting booth. Like vote when it counts. I mean, if we reflect, because there's basically what you're referring to is people just absolutely like making horrible comments and stuff about Jacinda Ardern. I've seen the memes, I've seen all of that stuff, and to me, that's like, even if you're personally against what the government is doing, when it goes to that level, it's kind of you realize they've come to their final straw. If I was to empathize with people making that decision, they've come to their final straw. They're just raging out. It's not helpful, and it's not cool. But that's what happens. If I think of US politics back when Trump was, coming through 2015, 2016, and like going for, up against Hillary, the amount of like crap that people talked about him, but the media took that and ran with it and made it like insane. So, in fact, boosted the popularity. And that's where I just think when you're judging leaders on their personal characteristics, like his silly funny hair or his orange skin, or Jacinda, or anyone like that, it actually detracts from what you're trying to do. It actually detracts from the purpose of the politics and the policies of the party, and becomes very distracting. So then it becomes an emotive issue, and we forget the policies that we should actually be looking at and should be looking for in a power that's looking after the country, and start looking at the personal aesthetic attributes of the leader itself. That's insane to me. I'm like, come on, guys. If we really want to make a difference,
away from fame too, yeah.
That's exactly it, bro. And look, I'm having a very small sliver, little taste of Les Mills fame, bro. Like, because I'll share a story with you, man. Some feedback came through for me from America. Someone had written in and said, why are we promoting a sexually aggressive Moroccan on posters? Because this particular person had traveled to Morocco and had experienced, overly sexually aggressive males who made them feel super uncomfortable. And why would we promote the image of a sexually aggressive Moroccan man? And it was me in a Shabam poster, and Rachel was, in the mix, and I'm dancing around.
Wow.
And I was just like, wow, okay. Number one, I'm not Moroccan. I'm Samoan. from New Zealand, and I'm not being sexually aggressive at all. And number two, like, way to paint all Moroccans as sexually aggressive. Like, gee, I actually struggled because the person who shared that feedback from me from LMI thought it would be funny, but kind of, you know, I think it would have been funny at first glance, like, because it's so wild, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't find it funny at all.
Offensive, right? It's offensive. It
Exactly.
attacks
I was just like,
it's a lot of stuff, bro. It's a lot of angles there.
come on, bro. Like, that hit hard, and I was just like, damn, that's the reality though. You know, people are just going to say some horrible stuff. And you know, even now with our young ones coming through, and, you know, I'll share the story. One of our younger presenters for Body Jam was getting eviscerated online, saying, you know, why would we have 14-year-olds presenting for Les Mills now? You know, where's the diversity? Where are our African representatives? Where are Black presenters? Why are these children being put on filming? And look, I can't speak for where that person's coming from in their life, but the comments they're hurtful, bro. Like, it takes away everything from our presenter who had the comments made about them, and just boils it down to, like, they're a child, they're not diverse enough, you know. And so the recommendation was to, like, you know, for them from a third part, not from me, but like from someone else, was to, you know, like, let them know who you are, tell the story. And I had to jump, you know, I wanted to jump in there because I was just like, don't say anything. Because number one, you're not going to convince that person that you're right. They're not out to be proved. They don't want to change their mind. And by adding fuel to the fire, you'll just exacerbate this social media demonization more than it needs to be. All you need to do is double down on, you know who you are, double down on the positivity that you can bring to your channels, speak your truth, shine your light. But forget these online social commentary battles, because I've seen it happen before. No one wins. It becomes a sledge fest. And yeah, that to me was the reality hitting home about what it's like to be in
those
the public
perceptions
view.
and biases are decades deep, right? They are handed
Man.
down through generations. But like I say, if you're 100% authentic and being you, and if you are trying your absolute best, no one can fault you. No one can fault you. You just got to be brave enough to own it and say, man, that's me. Not everybody's going to get it. When Cody and I have chatted about it before, some people will just have a misconception or a perception of ethnicity or diversity, and they just see you in that mold. You know me before you bro me, right? Take the time to sit down, and if you are going to critique someone, base it on your knowledge of an interaction with them. And perhaps it was just a shit time where you were just wrong place, wrong time, right? Or someone walked past you and didn't literally see you. Snob. Oh, they're just up themselves. When there's so many other different peripherals around.
Actually, on that one, I get like blamed for that a lot, because I'm like so focused. As a GFM, you know, group fitness manager, walking through the club, I'd be like hustling to the next class and, you know, head down, focus, laser vision, like, oh, Taz in a bad mood today, you know, like, don't talk to him, you know. It can be perceptions and perceived differently to how you're actually being, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the way that I like get around the whole triggering comments on social media, unless they're being like just total idiots, and you're like, it's a fool, is to actually go like, man, they must be really going through it. This person must be really like going through it to write that stuff, you know, and have a kind of pause moment to be like, look, for you to write those comments, you must have had some horrible stuff happen. So I appreciate where you come from, but I'm not going to even take it on. I'm not going to allow it to enter my spirit, you know.
Yeah, it takes a while to grow into your own skin and be confident enough to share it. But I know a lot of the young people involved with Group Fit who are incredible people, fully rounded, amazing individuals, connected to a purpose, just incredibly talented, soulful, rich, intelligent. And I love that, and that's inspiring to me as well, even as an old fella. Do you know what I mean? So continuously learning from all elements, from all angles, from all sexes, from all colors, from all ages, from all levels of life, makes us a more rounded individual. That's what we should be doing, soaking it up with the biggest sponge, right? You'll ever see SpongeBob. Here we are. We should just take the time to soak in all of the stuff that life throws you. And I think at times we just walk around like, doot, doot, pew, pew.
Yeah.
But it goes down to, like I say, there's harsh comments. Are we, by our actions and our words, inspiring people to take on roles of leadership? Are we being a leader to foster or promote people wanting to be leaders? Because who's going to put their hand up and say, Jimmy, would you like to be Prime Minister of New Zealand? Shit, no, miss. Shit, no. Why? Because people say mean things about the Prime Minister of New Zealand. But what we should be doing is inspiring of all aspects in our life, inspiring people to just put their hand up and go for it. Because, I certainly couldn't do it. Politics is an interesting game. Politics was meant for politicians.
It's wild, man.
Push. You can have it, but it's necessary. It's important. It takes a certain kind of person, much as it takes a certain kind of person to do what we do. But we have been guessing. I knew this would just go and go, and I love that, and the opportunity to sit and chat with you, and the beauty of it is just the elements to the conversation, the flow, and the stuff that comes out of it. And for me, I like to sit back and I listen to it as well, because there are things that go on where I'm like, man, that's awesome, that's amazing. I like to reconnect with the conversation that we've had. But the overwhelming thing for me is, mate, dealing with you is always a pleasure. I go back to a story when I first started at Les Mills, when I walked in, coming from another gym, not knowing anybody. You and your beautiful wife were the two people that really made me feel like I had a place and a home there. And I've never, ever forgotten that. And I've told you this before, but it's one of the great things that we should aspire to be inclusive. And that one moment is what has kept me engaged and passionate in our interaction since, of what's kept me engaged and passionate about group fit and helping people. So to have the opportunity to chat with you, mate, on the podcast is amazing. To have the opportunity to hear your thoughts on a whole range of stuff is incredible. The fact that we're going to get to interact more moving through into the next year as the game changes for all of us is just fills my cup like you wouldn't believe. Is there anything as your parting statement that you would like to share with the people? Just a simple message, no pressure. Before we used to call it the tombstone drill. So what would you like people to say about you? And I thought, man, is that too depressing? But I can leave it to you. Is there a message that you would like to leave, because it will be here, that you think will help people, or anything that you feel compelled to say?
I think so. Like, with the context of this entire chat, we were talking about just, self-awareness, self-growth, how you show up in a relationship, how you show up for your staff, your people, how you navigate through the wild times that we're facing at this current point in time. So there is a context for what I'd like to share, and it's just, when you can be authentic with yourself, when you can truly show up, look yourself in the mirror and say, I am who I am because of all the experiences that I have, and I want to give my all into the relationship and the world that I live in. When you can bring that level of authenticity and reality and accountability into your life, it will allow you to be more open to share your light, yourself, your being with others in a positive way. So I think that's it in a nutshell for me. It's like, if you can bring that authenticity, and don't be afraid of it, look deep into the mirror and go, there are things that I love about myself. There are things that I don't love so much, but I'm working on those things, or they're just a part of me. They're just the reality of who I am. And when you bring your whole self into that conversation, and don't look at it through judgment eyes, but looking through acceptance, that's where you can start to have those really powerful moments with those around you, and bring your true self to any situation that you're facing.
I love that, bro. And one thing that this message, years to come, years from now, your daughters who will be mature adults forging their own lives will be able to look back at this moment and share this with you, as I've been privileged to share this with you. So thank you, my bro. So that is us, episode number 35, the D.M.C Podcast with Adam and T. We just want to say thank you so much. Please like, subscribe if you can. Most of all, if you can be anything, please be kind, look after one another, and share love and support and uplift. Let's be leaders and create more leaders with love and light. That's us, the D.M.C Podcast, Ep 35. Take care and peace.